Hello friends and greetings for the day. Welcome back to another episode of Testing in Nutshell. This is Nish Kumar Singh and today we are talking about in continuation to the Scrum roles and ceremony. In the previous tutorial when I was trying to talk about everything together, I realized that it was going to be quite long a video which would be around 20 minutes or so. So I thought of breaking that once I was editing the video and I only put Scrum roles into that. So now, in this particular tutorial, we'll be getting into the Scrum ceremonies where we will be understanding that how exactly the sprint planning works, what is daily stand-ups, what are the review meetings, and there are a lot of such things which you must be aware of from the point of Scrum. So, understanding the same will be made easier in this particular tutorial. So let's get started with the same today. As a part of previous tutorial, we understood what are the Scrum roles. And now these roles perform a lot of ceremonies and different activities which happen as a part of the Scrum lifecycle or sprint. Now here, in this particular tutorial, we'll be getting further to understand what are those ceremonies or activities which are generally performed as a part of Scrum. But now let's understand a little more about the Scrum ceremonies. Now generally Scrum ceremony stands for any kind of activities which happen during the lifecycle of a Scrum project, where we have sprint planning, sprint reviews, sprint retrospectives, and daily scrums. I think we know a little bit about daily scrums from the previous tutorials, but let's understand in more detail what exactly it's all about. To begin with the sprint planning can be conducted in two different phases, Sprint Planning 1 and Sprint Planning 2. Where sprint planning meetings are generally conducted to understand or plan for the entire sprint. That what we will be doing, how we will be doing, what resources do we need, will be able to do that work or not, picking up the task from the backlogs and selecting them. So let's understand a little more in different types of that. When we talk about the Sprint Planning Meeting 1, which is generally done between team, Scrum Master, Product Owner, and user, having everyone together. Here we determine that what exactly is the activity all about, what are the tasks and details of that, what exactly we expect to happen when we complete these activities. So this is very important to understand from all of them, including the development team, Scrum Master, Product Owner, and user. Where user will contribute you from the point of expectation, the product owner will align all the activities and break them down into simpler forms, and Scrum Master will obviously there to address your challenges or help you to determine your plan much better, and the team will share the estimates that how much time do we need to complete these tasks. So generally this will be done with respect to a user story or an epic and determine that how well you can do it and what kind of pointers you would need. So it's generally an estimation benefit. So estimates will be done as a part of the meeting 1. And obviously the output is you will be able to understand that what you have defined and you are familiar and everyone else is aware that what exactly you will be doing and will you be leading to that or not. The total time taken for this particular activity is generally an hour time, but yes, it may vary depending on different organization practices. The second ceremony as a part of this Scrum ceremonies is Sprint Planning Meeting number 2, where it generally happens internally within team and Scrum Master. So in the meeting 1, we have integrated with everyone, including user and product owner, to break the task into simpler forms or break that activity into tasks and then select and determine the estimates. Now you are done determining the estimates of this particular activity and you are now getting into the sprint where you have to continue collaboration with your Scrum Master to understand that how will you achieve this. Is there a better approach available or is there something which is helping you to get those necessary documentations? What kind of details of the documentation you should have? Is it really necessary to do that or not? So Scrum Master is just kind of your mentor to tell you from time to time that how exactly you will proceed, what kind of activities should be done at earlier and what should be done later. So thus the Scrum Master and team will have the second level of meeting in order to understand the same, which may another last for 60 minutes to do the same. And yes, the output is, it is internally to understand that now we have got the instructions in the sprint meeting 1 And now we are trying to elaborate and define a roadmap, probably a roadmap with more details that how exactly we will be achieving that in this particular sprint. The next ceremony is called as sprint review, which is generally done at the end of the sprint. So when you talk about the sprint review, initially you started with the planning with all the 4 members. That is the main role of the Scrum team, Scrum Master, Product Owner, and User. So now you have all 4 of them once again at the end of the sprint to accept your work. So remember that activity and role of a product owner who decides whether we will accept your work output or not. And at this point of time, here again, they are doing this by conducting the sprint review to check that whether you were able to achieve this, what kind of functionalities you completed, what kind of activities you could not complete. Is this at the point, can I release the product, or can I give this working piece of code to the customer or not, or is it acceptable or rejectable? So the product owner during the sprint review will evaluate everything, what you committed and what you have finally done. If it is unacceptable or the features are not exactly met, then it will be for straightforward rejected. And sometimes it is also possible that there are a few changes need to be done, and that has to be taken in the upcoming sprint. So the Scrum Master and Product Owner, or generally the Product Owner at this point of time, will evaluate your activities, what you have performed, and check and accept your outputs. If not, you have to redo it. Another important thing is sprint retrospective, which generally happens at the end of each sprint. So here is just like a test closure activities when compared to traditional approaches. And here we have a very good output and ingredients involved. Now generally as a part of retrospective, we discuss that what we have done in this particular sprint, what we could have done better, or what is that we have faced as a challenges or common mistakes which we did. So generally the retrospectives is used to gather the lessons learned from the activities or that particular sprint in order to fine-tune your way of working and improvise that right from the next sprint. So to determine what are the necessary steps for improvement, it's really required to gather among all the team members with the Scrum Master to understand that when we tried doing something like this, probably we could have done it better and we had a way to do that. But we tried with something and did not help us to come out. So it's the same way here, we will define all those things. And not only that, the most important output of the retrospective is obviously about improvising your way of working right from the upcoming sprints, but there are many other things. For example, integrating that with the new feature, or talking about managing the artifacts, logging them into an archivable way, archive them for future use, or logging the output of the acceptance, documenting any kind of defects which were not resolved. So there are a lot of such things which you log at the end of the sprint. Thus we call it as retrospective or even post-mortem activities which will be done after the sprint is completed. And not only for the improvements, but there are many other activities which will be performed, as I mentioned, will be done as a part of retrospective. And it's generally lasts between 60 to 90 minutes of time during the place. One last thing as a part of this tutorial is daily scrums, which is also called as stand-up meetings, which happens between the team and the Scrum Master. Here, every day during this sprint life cycle, every day the team will connect with Scrum Master face to face, where this stand-up meeting is generally before 15 minutes, and thus it is so quick that is just 15 minutes. Then we call also the daily scrums as daily stand-up meetings, where generally people will stand up and each member of the team will let the Scrum Master know that what this person has planned and what this person has done so far, and if they have any kind of changes, any kind of plans, any kind of deviations, any kind of troubles will be shared to the Scrum Master. So during the daily Scrum calls or stand-up meetings, the Scrum Master has 3 standard questions to ask the team or the team members. The 3 questions include what you have done yesterday, what is that you will be doing today, are there any challenges or obstacles which you are facing. So the team collectively can answer this question, or each member generally has to answer this question during the Scrum meeting. And as the team comprises of very few members, it hardly takes 15 minutes to complete this job. And it's very straightforward that you showcase what you have taken yesterday, have you completed that, and what is that you're targeting today. So to be aware of the schedule and how my team is doing it, whether we will be able to achieve that or not, and if there are any challenges, for example, any extra information needed or any kind of support needed from the Scrum Master will be identified. And Scrum Master will further connect to the necessary person in order to help the organization. So that's all from this particular tutorial, team. Should you have anything else, feel free to comment below. I'll be always there to respond to your queries and answer them well. Till then, keep learning, keep exploring, keep understanding the context. Thanks for watching the video, team, and happy learning.